Welcome back to UltraLife Today. We're here with Dr. Deanna Windham. I am Josh Bellew and my buddy
Adam Payne,
hanging out on the end, CEO of Ultra Botanica. And Dr. Windham, you know, I think we have absolutely tickled people's ears talking about low-dose naltrexone in the last segment, but right before we kind of bushwhacked you, how's that for a good Oklahoma word, bushwhacked you into the interview today, you mentioned the microbiome, big buzzword out there. What I like to say is gut health and how it relates to brain health and how it relates to just about everything in the body, right? And so gut health is the big word. Every TV commercial you see, it's probiotics this, probiotics that, and that's probably a good little segue into this next segment. We want you to tell us a little bit about gut health. What is the buzz all about? What is the bad going on out there? What's the good? What's the truth? And how do we get our gut healthy, and how does that affect our health?
Oh, easy. Let me just get that one right out there.
Oh, easy. I love this lady. Okay.
That was facetious. I hope you got that.
I know. Yeah, I ask really long-winded questions. I'm kind of like the Apostle Paul. I just string sentences together, string questions together. Yeah.
Okay.
So microbiome, though, equals gut health, right? Is that?
Right. So
Okay.
the microbiome is basically all of the bacteria that live in and around our bodies.
Whether
so
good or bad?
Everywhere, good or
Okay,
bad.
all right.
And so that's in your nose, in your mouth, in your ears, on our skin. But most of the time when we're talking about the microbiome, we're really talking about the gut.
Okay.
And so that's the trillions of bacteria that live in our gut. And just to kind of put that in perspective, we have more gut bacterial cells in our body than we have human cells in our body by like hundreds fold. Not a little bit, hundreds fold. And the genetic material in the microbiome outnumbers our human genetics by at least tenfold.
Yeah, there's more DNA in our biome than there is in our body.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, here's the interesting part about that. Not only is that biome not only is that genetic material there, but as humans, we borrow from it. So we exchange genetic material with our microbiome. That's why it's so important.
So is that one reason people are talking about the brain being in your gut?
Yeah. Yes. Well, and partially, but also 80% of the neurotransmitters that your brain uses to work are made in your gut.
There you go. So
Your
serotonin.
hormones circulate through your gut.
Okay.
80% of your immune system is in your gut. And a large part of your DNA and your how your DNA expresses is determined by your gut microbiome.
That's so interesting.
How do we, let me ask you this. Where are most Americans at when they come in and see Dr. Deanna Windham, and you do, I'm assuming, maybe you can let us know about some diagnostic tests you do. Where is the average American on the scale of gut health, 10 being awesome and 0 being a complete flop?
The average American's probably going to be between 3 and 5.
Wow.
I mean, pretty low.
But better than I thought.
Yeah, well, and it's also I should say the average American that comes into me.
Okay.
So these are people who are already
I
trying.
have a bit of a holistic mindset already.
Right.
Trying to be well.
But can you really influence the biome that much? I mean, there's so much flex and flux going on with those bacteria colonies that are in our gut. I mean, most of the bacteria, I mean, you're taking yogurt in, for example, or a probiotic, most of those cells that you're taking in, they're going to die in your stomach and get chewed up and spewed out. Can we really influence what's going on in the microbiome?
Yeah, and I do use probiotics.
Sure.
But I don't depend on probiotics at all.
Oh, interesting.
Because when you're taking probiotics, you might take, in a good probiotic, you might take between 3 to 10 probiotics.
Bacteria.
Families of bacteria.
Right.
But we've got hundreds, thousands of families of bacteria in our gut. So how is taking those few going to have the deep impact that we need. And so I try to do that actually with food.
Oh,
and
interesting.
with superfoods and with supplementation.
Providing essentially the prebiotics to
There you
help
go.
to nurture the positive biome in our gut. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
Right.
saying?
yeah. And for
Right.
those listening, I'm going to give you an Adam Payne analogy. A prebiotic would actually be like giving a snack to an actual healthy, beneficial organism in your gut, where it goes, I like that food, and when I eat it, I'm going to multiply. Mm-hmm. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Did I do all right?
that's a good one. And, you know, according to research, I don't even test most people's microbiome. Well, a lot of times I don't test the microbiome right away because I assume that they're going to have a horrible microbiome. And so
Oh,
we start
interesting.
trying to work
And,
on
and
it.
if you hear their diet, you probably know
Right.
pretty much where they're at, right?
Right. So we're going to start working on it right away.
Okay.
And then at some point we'll test if we need to. It obviously depends on the
So-
patient and their status.
So,
but
so give us the Dr. Windham approach to improving the microbiome, and why is this so important? I mean, you essentially laid it out that the microbiome is responsible for creating neurotransmitters. It's responsible for serotonin, correct? Because we had a dear friend of ours, we have a dear friend of ours, our naturopath Lou Phillips. He was chronically depressed for 40 years because he
Yes.
had penicillin as a kid, killed his microbiome, and he went into a clinical depression that lasted until his biome was restored.
And he discovered 5-HTP, which absolutely just radically changed his life, and then also the gut connection with
So-
brain chemistry.
Help us out. Give us some baby steps that somebody can take to help today start to improve their microbiome.
okay. And, you know, there is a very notable psychiatrist that never prescribes medications and only works with lifestyle and microbiome in order to treat people that have very, very serious illnesses. And
That's phenomenal. What's
yeah.
his name?
Kelly Brogan, her name.
Oh, her name. That's somebody. Kelly Brogan. And is she
She
an
has
author
a-
of a book or any website?
She has.
What is
yeah,
it?
she has a couple. KellyBroganMD.com. And I can't think of the name of her book right now. It's just going right out of my
Oh
head.
no, but that was good. Yeah, Kelly. Even
she's-
if you type that
Brogan
poorly
is-
into Google, you'll find it.
So
KellyBroganMD.com.
the
Cool.
effect of
BROGGAN.
modulating the microbiome must be really significant if you're taking people that are in chronic depression or dealing with borderline personality issues or bipolar issues.
Oh, sure. Yeah, all of that.
Wow.
And it's amazing the impact. You truly don't understand the impact of something like that until you see somebody that's had chronic depression, that's had bipolar disorder, that's, struggling with psychotic tendencies.
Wow.
And you change their diet, you change their lifestyle, and they start to improve and come off of their medications and feel better than
Wow.
they've ever felt in their lives.
And
it sounds like a fairy tale.
it
does.
though.
It actually
Yeah.
does.
I mean,
But you've seen this effect?
I have.
So, again, give us some baby steps. What can somebody do today to start to improve their biome? I mean, short of coming to you and getting a full intervention, are there any health tips that you can give us as to how we can start to improve ourselves today?
Oh, yeah, there's some easy things. So, I always say the first thing you want to do is stop eating food that isn't food. So,
You mean processed food.
So
my
if
grandmother
you
used
look
to
at the
say,
label and it's got more than 3 ingredients, it's probably not good stuff.
yeah, my grandmother used to say, if you can't read it,
Or
don't
pronounce
eat it.
There you
Oh,
go.
interesting.
And I always say, if it's not an ingredient that you recognize that you could take off your shelf and add to your foods, then you don't want to eat it. So there are a lot of things that are damaging the microbiome. They're literally killing it off. We're sending these bombs
So we
down
pretty
to
much
our gut.
just completely KO'd all the fast food restaurants, all the different packaged snacks and foods, every soft drink that's out there, right? Pretty
yeah.
much.
So
Yeah.
we
Now,
we
this
just wrote
isn't-
an article that showed We looked at some research that showed that for every 10% of processed foods that you have in your diet, you increase the risk of long-term dementia by 5%.
Wow.
Right. So one of the easy solutions to decrease dementia risk, not that everybody's thinking about being demented when they get older, but is to decrease the amount of processed foods in your diet, which is really pointing towards the microbiome.
Exactly. And the, neuroinflammation, which is inflammation in the brain, that starts in or is triggered by changes in the microbiome. So the
pro-inflammatory
neuroimmune
response. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And so there are some notable. I shouldn't say that like it's 100% known, but likely I should say. Or at least this is one of the primary players in dementia is actually the microbiome and the part that the microbiome is playing.
So do we need to get off of all processed foods? Is there at least some bit of processed foods we can have in our diet?
Yeah.
Or do we have to wean ourselves completely off of here?
So if you ask me, and you're asking me.
I am asking you.
I say try to be 80% compliant.
80%.
Okay, it's the
80-20 rule.
It's
who's Taylor?
Taylor, remember, right?
Yep.
Kenzie Taylor, Dr. Kenzie Taylor. We did a lovely interview with her. You've got to hear her story because it rivals yours.
So
it's
beautiful.
Pretty amazing. But I said, so give us that UltraLife Today health tip, and she goes, okay, the 80-20 rule. I said, what's that? And she goes, 80% of the time you eat really clean, 20% of the time you don't.
Nice. I like that. That's very good.
For me though, this all or nothing mentality, I grew up, that's the way I was. I don't want to be the all or nothing guy. I want to be the tortoise and the hare. I want to win the race one step at a time. So to our listeners, when you hear you're going to have to give up all your Big Macs and everything, to me, most people just say, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. Do one little thing every week, every day. If it's drink that extra glass of water that you need, that's pure water, that's filtered water, do that. If you're going to, if you're drinking 8 Cokes a week, guess what? Cut one day out and go to 7, and then just change slowly. Do that. So we're getting close to coming to a break here. I want to let you know how you can get hold of Dr. Deanna Windham. And by the way, we've talked about low-dose naltrexone today, ldnresearchtrust.org. Go there and look at that. We talked about kellybroganmd.com. She mentioned this unique lady that's treating people, just their gut health, to bring them out of horrific disease situations. Dr. Deanna Windham, wholehumanlife.com, WHOLE, humanlife.com. 888 number is 888-338-3408. That's 888-338-3408. I'm Josh Bellew. You are listening to UltraLife Today. I'm hanging out with a new friend and an old friend.
Yeah, Adam Payne and Dr.
Deanna Windham.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll be right back after this break. Our mission is to take nature's most beloved botanicals and enhance them with our liquid protein scaffold technology. This helps it reach your cells faster and better. With exponentially enhanced bioavailability, you'll feel better every day. Ultra Botanica, the feel-good curcumin.
Hey, welcome back to UltraLife Today. I'm Josh Bellew, sitting here with Dr. Deanna Windham, and my dear friend on the end is
Adam Payne.
He is the CEO and founder of Ultra Botanica. And by the way, you need to go to the website, ultratoday.com, and get inside the mind of Adam Payne and some of his research colleagues that have come up with some unique results-oriented products. And by the way, thank you so much for sharing with your friends about the UltraLife Today broadcast. Hey, if you want to post links somewhere, you can get on our Facebook page. Type in on the net UltraCur, ULTRACUR. Find us on Facebook. You can find our archived episodes of UltraLife Today there. Also, UltraCur, ULTRACUR, on YouTube. You can find us there as well. We have, I think Deanna actually corrected me today. I think we're moving into episode 38 with this particular interview
Yes.
today, right? So we talked about low-dose naltrexone in an earlier segment. We've been talking about gut health, which affects your entire body. We've been talking about beneficial bacteria. We've talked about prebiotics, the bacteria in your body eats these unique foods. And that kind of leads us. Adam had said, hey, what are some tips? What are some things we can do? Are there certain families of foods that those of us out there might go, hey, I grew up eating sauerkraut. I love that, or I love this or that. Are there certain classes of foods that we can eat that we know are going to fuel a healthier microbiome?
Absolutely.
Tell us
That's
about
a great
some of them.
question. So,
By the way,
You
I do love
mentioned-
sauerkraut.
yeah, you mentioned
fermented foods.
sauerkraut.
Well, sauerkraut's
love
not, it's
sour
not a
things.
processed food. That's
Well, I
a-
didn't say it was processed food.
No, that's a whole food.
I'm just
is it
talking
not?
about-
It is,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And it's a fermented food.
Was that
and
good?
That is excellent because
Yay!
fermented foods are one of the best foods for the microbiome, or I said some of the best foods for the microbiome. So anything fermented.
So it's
even-
essentially it's pre-digested, right?
Right.
Fermented means
And-
that bacteria have
and-
been munching on it for some time.
and
and
loads of probiotics.
I've seen a weird, interesting movement taking place out there where you pop on and someone will say, here is a quick way that you can begin to ferment your own foods at home with stuff you've got in your cabinet. You really can do that. It's crazy.
Heard that.
You don't
I'm
actually have to
thinking of
pay
doing that.
$10 a jar for
Right.
the organic sauerkraut. You can go buy the head of organic cabbage,
Mm-hmm.
use your food
Well, that's the
processor,
whole
and get
kind
some
of
Bragg's
self-can-
apple cider
that's the whole
vinegar and rock
canning
it.
movement, right?
Yeah.
And making your own stuff and getting back to the earth and growing your own stuff and getting it out there. There's a huge movement of people that are getting back to making your own stuff. Essentially.
So what are some other
Pretty
fermented
powerful.
foods? We talked about sauerkraut.
You can ferment anything. I've seen fermented beets, fermented eggs.
Ooh, I love pickled beets.
Yes, me too. It's one of
I
my
crave
favorites.
them, as a matter of
And
fact.
Beets or eggs?
Beets.
Beets.
yes.
I love
Yeah.
beets. Yeah,
And
beets are
beets
good.
are actually a microbiome food. So I have a.
So, like, I mean, a
an-
built-in prebiotic thing for beets, or
Meaning that beets, artichokes, there are certain
yeah,
foods,
artichokes.
herbs, even spices that are very good for inherently good
so
for the
they're
microbiome.
just nurturing the whole environment.
Right, right.
Awesome.
And so beets are one of those. And artichokes, I mentioned. One of my favorite spices things to use when I'm eating other foods is mustard with horseradish. I mix them together because
I
those are two
Horseradish.
love
microbiome
horseradish.
foods.
Really?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Horseradish.
Yeah.
Interesting. And
You'd
so these
think that would
stimulate
just kill
healthy
off
gut
all the good
flora.
bacteria, wouldn't you?
So this stimulates healthy gut flora in the body.
Right.
Nice.
One of the very, very first books to come out about the microbiome was just called The Microbiome Diet. And I had all of my patients read that book, and I read that book. And from that book, I made a one-page handout of do's and don'ts, and I listed the spices, the fruits, the vegetables, all of the foods.
So I've heard that nightshades sometimes are not a good thing for the body.
Right.
So where
Such
where
a
do we
bummer.
why is that, and how can we figure out whether that's good for me or bad for me?
But okay.
But
Yeah,
No, it's
nightshades can
such
be
a loaded question that
Yeah.
you just asked, Adam, because I have my own questions. I'd love to ask Dr. Windham
well,
about.
we're not going to beat around the bush here. We want to have those
Be
loaded questions.
Right,
inflammatory.
right.
They
Pro-inflammatory.
can be really inflammatory, right? And they also are, we know now, are high lectin-containing foods as well.
The lectins.
And so we bring in the whole lectin question there. That's another
and so
Pandora's
that's
box.
yeah, but I want to just try to take that quick little rabbit trail.
It's
I
an
have a
interesting
belief.
rabbit
I have a belief that number one, everyone is different. Some people in some cultures can tolerate lectins all day long. I also believe that some people who have high lectins in their diet in certain cultures are eating other things that counteract those lectins. And again, this is Josh Bellew Theory 101 right now. I'm literally making it up as I go because that's my own belief about that. And I also think that there are certain diets that are very great as therapeutic diets, and they're horrible as a maintenance diet.
Right.
You can go be a fruitarian and you can get well from cancer and all kinds of things. You can go on vegetable fasts and do juice fasting combined with raw vegetable juices and alkaline juices and cure all kinds of things. Stay on that diet forever and you're going to die, right?
Right.
Okay.
There is no such thing as normal. There is only normal for you.
Yeah.
And so each person is individual.
And there is such a thing as
that's-
therapeutic and maintenance, right?
Right.
You can really shift
Absolutely.
up a person's diet for therapeutic reasons and then say,
Okay,
and eventually
okay,
you'll come back closer
Yeah,
to
you
center,
can go on
right?
a juice fast, but you don't want to stay on a juice fast
Right.
forever. It's very good as cleansing.
Let's-
It's very good to help your body
Let's address
alkalize.
this one at a time. So, I know some some doctors, some approach this as an exclusion diet approach, right? So, rather than saying no, don't do any of these things that potentially could be bad for you, they say, look, we're going to go to something that's really basic that we know that nobody reacts to, these non-reactive foods, and then they start to add in foods one at a time to see if your microbiome or if your body reacts to them. Do you take that approach, or do you do something differently?
I love that she said no.
No.
I can't
It's-
wait to hear the answer.
It's too hard, and one of those foods that nobody is supposed to react to is rice, and I know people who react to it.
Really?
Yes. And so generally speaking, we'll start, I say generally because nobody's the same, but we'll start with a microbiome or modified microbiome diet based on the specifics of that person and what we
Okay.
know about them. And then if we're not able to figure out their diet and what's working for them, I do a test and look for IgG food sensitivities.
So you do the
And
test,
then
actually.
we do elimination, rotation, and then we recheck because food sensitivities change over time. And
Interesting.
so then,
So it's not one size fits all. You're actually you are testing to see where people are sensitive.
And,
Right.
and,
Do those IgG tests work for people?
absolutely.
They do.
Now, I have had some patients in whom it didn't work. There's nothing that works for everyone.
So
95% of the time.
IgG is actually it's a antibody, right? That's circulating in the body, and what we're doing is we're seeing whether you have circulating antibodies that will stick to the proteins of specific foods or the metabolites of those foods. Is that correct? And so if your body reacts to, let's say, rice or cucumbers or apples, we'll actually be able to see it because those antibodies will aggregate on that little part where that proteins for apples or broccoli or whatever is being expressed. And so important to know whether we're actually not necessarily allergic, but reactive to those.
And then we have to, because you can't heal the gut until you treat food sensitivities.
Oh, interesting.
And so we treat food sensitivities, we eliminate and rotate, and then help the gut to heal, and then adjust the diet based on new, because
So you learn, adjust the diet, heal, and then you take a look again.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
and you introduced a
process.
beautiful idea that tagged off of a question that Adam had, and I don't want it to go over our audience's head. You mentioned that, let's say you have a person that is really toxic, trauma. They're really in bad shape. You begin to heal the microbiome. You begin to replenish the flora in the body. And along the way, you're making adjustments in food and things like that. But you mentioned the same food that might have really set them off when they were in that trauma place. They may be able to have a little bit of that every now and then when they get better, right?
Right, exactly.
See, so guys, it's not
Even
totally
gluten.
without hope for you.
Yeah.
Even gluten, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I
That was
know.
my
That's
next
a-
question.
that's
I
a
was going to ask you
naughty
about gluten.
word. I know.
Okay, no, I was going to ask
for
you.
everybody.
Because don't a lot
And
of
it's
people...
not bad all the time.
Yeah,
for
and don't a
for
lot of people use a shotgun approach? Like, for instance, Adam was talking about the elimination diet, but don't a lot of people just shotgun it and say, hey, I've heard doctors say, hey, just do me a favor, go without gluten for 90 days, and let's just see how you do.
Right.
Because for a lot of people, isn't
a big
that
one.
kind of a big one?
It's a huge, yeah,
Okay.
gluten is huge.
And that can be night and day for some people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that one, that's an easy one. I hit that one on the first appointment lots of
Okay,
times too.
and will gluten even like mess with your mind, your mental, your whether you feel depressed, whether you feel anxious, all that. Does
Well,
that
that's
affect
all
that?
gut biome,
Yeah.
brain axis, Josh. Yes, of course it could.
Definitely.
Hey, Adam,
And
I'm just
it
asking
actually,
questions.
gluten over time can break the blood-brain barrier and cause
That's a horrifying
other things,
thought.
right? Things that shouldn't be in the brain get in there, and then breaking the blood-brain barrier is how you get an autoimmune brain issues going on, like Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis.
Interesting.
Dr. Perlmutter's book, The Grain Brain, talked
Right.
about that a lot.
Right?
Boy, there are so many autoimmune diseases that do periodically break the blood-brain barrier, like lupus. It's chronically known that those episodes of lupus actually open up the blood-brain barrier, exposing the brain to our immune system and wreaking havoc.
Right.
So,
And
Because
so-
the immune system's not supposed to
It's
see
not supposed
that.
to. Yeah.
so I want to make sure before we go to break here, we've got a couple of minutes left, but we started this thing off talking a little bit about probiotics, and immediately we shifted into diet. But is there a place for the average American that may not be eating the SAD diet, everything horrible, maybe they're on a wellness journey now, is there a place for them to take a probiotic? Our good friend Lou Phillips recommends, there's a variety of different ones out there. There's fermented probiotics, and there's other ones that go through the gut, Adam, where they live through that initial phase of going through the gut. But can an individual take periodically? I mean, I kind of intuitively go on probiotic binges, and like maybe once every 3 months I'll repopulate. I'll take 3 or 4 different ones that have maybe 100 different flora between them, and I'll take one at a time, and then I'll do that for a week, and then I'll do another for a week, and then I won't take them again for a long time. Is there any philosophy to that? Can we get benefit from taking probiotics?
Yes,
Okay.
100%. And thank you
Okay.
for clarifying that. I do
Okay.
use probiotics
All
a
right.
lot.
Okay.
I just don't like for people to depend on them like that's
It's
going to
not the
fix the
magic bullet,
microbiome.
right? Yeah.
But it is an
Okay.
important part of helping the
Okay.
microbiome to be healthy.
Okay, and prebiotics right along with that. Now, okay, we're getting pretty close to break here. I think we've got about a minute left here. So, are there prebiotic foods? Are there some that you can just think of that they are just like the meal for your beneficial bacteria? And we've got
Fiber.
about 40. Fiber.
Yeah, so things that have good fiber in them, and artichokes, which I already mentioned, especially the artichoke
artichokes.
hearts.
Okay.
Those are
Yummy.
very good prebiotic foods, and chicory root. Sometimes we see that in
You will.
supplements
Yeah,
or
you'll
teas.
see it in bars and all kinds of things. They put in that. Well, hey,
So
you've been-
go get some chicory root and artichokes.
There
Yeah,
you
there you
go.
go.
Num, num, num.
Yummy.
Healthy snacks.
That's
Don't mix them
beautiful.
together, though. That doesn't taste very well. Okay, Dr. Deanna Windham is who we've been listening to. You can get a hold of her at wholehumanlife.com. That's WHOLE, humanlife.com. The phone number to call is 888-338-3408. This is UltraLife Today. Thank you for telling your friends about the broadcast. They can find us at ULTRACUR, UltraCur on Facebook or YouTube.
And don't forget you can go to ultratoday.com and get a free sample of any of the UltraCur products. Please take a look.
Yep, just pay shipping for that. And this is UltraLife Today. I'm Josh Bellew.
I'm Adam Payne, and we've had...
Deanna Windham.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for the live portion.